Today I'll be updating my rankings. I've still got Ohio State at number one. They didn't play last Saturday, and I've got them ahead of Texas, who I've got at number two. Because even though Texas has one good win over Michigan and done really well against their nothing opponents. And Ohio State doesn't have a good win yet, just two wins over nobodies. I knew before the season began that the opponents that Ohio State has played up to this point aren't any good, and I picked them to win the championship before the season started. Nothing has happened so far to make me change my mind on that. Ohio State will have to either lose or play badly against the opponent that they're supposed to beat easily for me to drop them below number one. But Quinn Ewers, I saw is probably going to be out this week for Texas because of a stomach injury. But good news for Texas is they've got quite a bit of time for him to get healthy. They play actually two nothing opponents next. Louisiana Monroe this Saturday, and then Mississippi State the Saturday after that. A team that it is not any good but still plays in the SEC. That'll be like playing an FCS team, and then they get a week off after that before the a big game against Oklahoma. He should be fully healthy before they actually have to have him again. And Ole Miss, I've got it number three. They did, what they needed to do against a horrible Wake Forest team. They've still not really been tested yet, but they do look really good so far. So my opinion hasn't changed on them. And then Alabama, I've got it number four. They look good overall against Wisconsin, but Wisconsin already hadn't looked very good before the Alabama game, and nearly all of that game was played without Wisconsin's starting quarterback. So we'll still have to see what they do in their next game against Georgia to really know exactly how good Alabama really is. And then Georgia, I moved down to number five because they just barely beat Kentucky, who didn't seem to be very good uh, before that game. And Oregon, I moved up to number six because they finally showed up this year. I had been waiting for that NFL loaded roster of theirs to actually play a good game for their Heisman contending quarterback, Dylan Gabriel. They got a gift with him coming over there, so they need to keep that up and not waste it. USC, I've got it seven. They didn't play this week, and I think that they're probably going to beat Michigan this Saturday fairly easily. And then Tennessee, I've got at number eight. They could possibly be a real top five team. I'm pretty sure that they're going to be a playoff team. They look like so far a team that could challenge Georgia, especially after Kentucky did, and looks like they could challenge Alabama or Ole Miss. They've been putting up so many points. Of course, that they just beat a nobody last Saturday, but they put up 71 points and it shut them out. And they have proven themselves to be a good team, I think, with what they did to NC State the week before last, winning by over 40 points, because that is a powerful opponent. And number nine, I've got Miami. They just played Ball State, a group of five team, and won 62 to nothing. So really, they've just beat three nobodies so far. Miami has, including Florida. They're a horrible football team. similar to Mississippi State. It'll be interesting to see who wins that battle between those two garbage teams this Saturday. But I still think that Miami is a really good team, a very likely a playoff team. And number 10, 11, and 12, Oklahoma State, Utah, and Kansas State. I don't know who to rank ahead of who of those three Big 12 teams. So I just ranked them all next to each other. And this was the order that I had them in before the season began. Oklahoma State ahead of Utah and Kansas State, and then Utah right behind Oklahoma State. But uh, Oklahoma State and Utah are going to play this Saturday. So after that, it'll become obvious who to rank ahead of the two of those teams, at least for the time right now. Because, of course, if my prediction before the season began comes true, those two teams will play again in the conference championship, and that could, of course, go the other way than it goes this Saturday. But that's going to be a really good close game, I think. And then Kansas State, they looked impressive against Arizona last Friday night, winning 31-7. I was surprised that they blew them out. Their defense looked so good, and that run game is elite. It's going to be hard for anyone to stop the Kansas State run game. To me, they look like a team that has a very good chance to win the conference. And if Oklahoma State and Utah aren't going to have a rematch in the Big 12 championship, Kansas State will probably be in the conference championship against one of those two teams, I think. And LSU, I've got it 13. They did come back and beat South Carolina just barely, and it was on the road, which is a tough place to play. And South Carolina, blowing out Kentucky the week before. I think that LSU is still a pretty good team. And 14, I've got Missouri. So not great against Boston College, just winning 27-21. But Boston College possibly is a pretty good team this year. So my thoughts on Missouri haven't really changed. And then Penn State at 15. They didn't play this Saturday, but that win they got in the opener against West Virginia is not looking as impressive anymore because West Virginia got beat by Pittsburgh last Saturday, whose roster I know is horrible. Now, I don't know if Pittsburgh is maybe a lot better than I thought, or West Virginia is just not any good, but I think it's more that West Virginia is just not very good. And Penn State is probably just a good team and not an elite team. And Oklahoma, I've got it 16. So overall, they did okay last Saturday, beating Tulane by a couple of scores. And Tulane did come close to upsetting Kansas State the week before, who's a good team. But Oklahoma has got to get healthy at wide receiver and on the offensive line, or I think they're probably going to lose like 5 games this year and not even finish in the top 25. Now, healthy, I think they can probably be a borderline top 15 team. And Louisville, I've got it 17. They didn't play last Saturday. And then the same for Iowa State and Northern Illinois. Neither team played. But Northern Illinois, I've only got in there because they beat Notre Dame, who did a whole lot better this last Saturday, beating up on a like a high school team, Purdue, 66-7. But their offense did finally play well. They had really struggled up to that point. Their quarterback Riley Leonard had, but it seems like maybe he's getting back to his old ways again of being a good quarterback. I wouldn't count Notre Dame out yet of a playoff spot, but I still think that it's unlikely. And then Texas A&M, I've got it at 21. They, beat a horrible Florida team by a couple of touchdowns last Saturday. So I was expecting that. My thoughts on them haven't really changed, but of course I have to put them behind uh, Notre Dame because of Notre Dame's win over them. And then Michigan, I dropped to 22. They just do not look very good at all. Uh, uh, Last year, they would not have beat Arkansas State by only 10 points. They would have destroyed them. That was embarrassing. Their offense continues to struggle. 28 points against Arkansas State is like unacceptable. And their defense, giving up 18 to Arkansas State wasn't that good. I know Arkansas State would have been shut out by Michigan's defense last year. They're not going to be able to compete in the Big Ten with the really good teams. I don't think. And then Clemson, I've got it 23. So they ended up moving up a little bit, even though they didn't play, just because of how it worked out. But I think if Clemson is the top 25 team, it'll be in the 20s somewhere. And Central Florida, I've got it 24. They weren't ranked in my rankings last week. They did go on the road and get a win over TCU, 35 to 34. I think it's possible that they're a borderline top 25 team. And then Nebraska, I've got at 25. They've played really just three nobodies. Their best win comes against a horrible Colorado trash team. And Boston College, I had ranked the 2 weeks before this one, and now I don't. And it's not really because I think Boston College is worse now than I thought they were last week. Because they played Missouri, who's supposed to be a good team. Boston College, I still think might be a top 25 team. It's really just because of how it worked out. And it's hard to do rankings at this early in the season. You really have to get closer to halfway into the season to know really where to rank the teams. But Nebraska's schedule, of course, is going to get a lot tougher than it is right now later in the season. So I think there's a good chance that they could turn out to obviously not be a top 25 team, but they do seem to be clearly better with a big upgrade at quarterback with Dylan Raiola. But that will be it with this video, and please subscribe, and thanks for watching, and I'll be back very soon.